Good morning and welcome to the Small Business Cheerleader podcast. I'm Nicola Willis from NW Marketing, the Small Business Cheerleader, and I'm joined today by Cat Skreiner. She's a human design mentor and energetic business strategist. Now that is a title I love, and we're here today to talk about human design for small business. So how are you, Cat? And let people know how you got into human design, because it is something that intrigues so many business owners that I talk to. So let me know, how did you get into human design?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. My journey into human design was probably quite organic, and I discovered human design on a podcast, so very meta, on a podcast back in 2019. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I did a tiny bit of kind of research or, going down the Google rabbit hole at that point, but I didn't really take it any further. And it kind of then left my radar for a couple of months. And then towards the end of 2019, around November, maybe November, December, some people in my circle on Instagram started talking about human design and talking about readings that they had done, and sharing, these kind of mind blown, moments of like, wow, this is kind of an insane amount of detail about me, and it's so spot on and it's so accurate. And I was like, oh, okay, there's another in, and then kind of really sparked my interest again. So I too got a reading done and had that same kind of very illuminating experience of being very seen and very understood by someone who I had never met, and all I had provided this person with my birth time, date, and location. So I was like, that's scarily accurate and very spot on, and very, very, there's a very common kind of reaction when people get a reading for their human design. They're like, that's me. And it really gives you kind of language to describe things that you've already kind of always known about yourself, but never really truly understood how to articulate that or how it made you different to other people. So at the time, I was a digital marketing strategist. I specialized in Facebook and Instagram advertising, which is, what I was doing when we first met, or kind of around that time. And the reading from a work and a business perspective, and what I was doing in my career and for, for my living, it was still very aligned. And I kind of was like, oh, great. I'm, using all of my skills and my strengths that were kind of brought through in this reading were pretty closely aligned to what I was doing in my business. And then we kind of get into 2020 territory. It's a big year, a year that changed, many people's lives, obviously, with the pandemic starting and, all of the upheaval around that. And I think that was really a catalyst for me to really look at, was what I was doing in digital marketing, did it actually kind of light me up? And I came to the point of really realizing that, through understanding myself a little bit better through my human design, I had kind of mistaken the feeling of doing a good job and being good at what I did, and kind of praise and achievements from clients and doing good client work. I kind of mistaken the feeling that gave me for actual kind of passion and purpose for what I was actually doing. And when I was kind of got really honest with myself, I realized that I didn't actually get lit up by the work that I was doing, but it had been the work that I'd done in my entire career. So, almost 20 years of marketing, 14 years of that specializing in digital. I was like, well, that's what I do. It's just my identity. It's what I've always done. And I, when I started my own business and started my own small business, I did what many people do, which is kind of naturally take the skills that you learnt and that you have, used in your career and do your own thing. But I kind of came to realize that wasn't really super aligned for me. It didn't really excite me. Even the really good, achievements like making, millions of dollars for clients through ads and things like that, the things that I should have been like super pumped by, I was like, bit ho-hum. And just, I was at that point where I just could not get excited about it. And At the same time, I was obviously kind of, I'd had my human design reading, and I was, on the side kind of Googling a little bit and exploring what other options might be out there in terms of learning more about human design. But I was kind of being a bit random about it. I didn't really know what I was looking for until I found my human design mentor. And I ended up jumping, feet first, basically into the deep end, into a 6-month certification. And the reason that I did that was very much because I'd learned so much about how I'm actually designed to make decisions, and what that feeling of being lit up and feeling excited about something again really felt like. And everything was just a yes, 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 you need to do this. Somewhere along the line, I kind of also went to a breathwork workshop, which was something that I'd never really had a lot of experience with. And, 5 years prior, if you'd said, oh, you're going to be going to breathwork workshops and learning human design, I would have been like, oh, I'm not really that kind of person. I'm not super spiritual or woo-woo or anything like that. But everything just kind of kept leading me down this path. And I just kind of kept saying yes and yes and yes to the things that really felt good to me, which is how I'm designed. And so I jumped feet first into this certification. And learning human design has been the only thing that I've ever studied in my whole life that I have actually prioritized and wanted to learn and wanted to kind of clear the decks and focus on the study, and really could not get enough of learning about the system. And much to my accountant's kind of just not disdain, but her, she was like, let's just kind of ease into this human design business, because that's obviously where I wanted to take it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing the marketing anymore. I just did not have, I literally did not have the energy for it. I couldn't make myself do it. And kind of fortunately with the marketing business, that had wound down a little bit anyway because of the pandemic. Some of the clients that I had that were on retainer needed to kind of pull back, needed to kind of reassess. And I was in a bit of a holding pattern with some clients, and we naturally kind of just parted ways, through the upheaval of the pandemic. But once I'd found the thing that I really loved, I could not ignore it. And I just had to keep following that excitement. And, all these signals that I was getting in my body, which I now knew what they were and how to interpret them. I was like, okay, this is obviously the right thing to do. But, turning your back on so many years of an identity tied up in one thing, or doing certain work was, it wasn't easy. And it was certainly very challenging for my ego to kind of almost have to start again. And I did have to start again.
Well, it's brave. I mean, we all had to pivot in some point. I mean, I was very similar retainer clients for my consulting work in marketing. And I agree. It was that sort of time. And a lot of people did take that time to pivot into really what lit them up, though, because they had the chance and the time. And I did a similar thing. Not into human design, obviously, but more the coaching realm, because of seeing small businesses really struggle. And it gave me the chance to really dive deeper into learning and experiencing that side of me that I hadn't had time to when you're so busy with retainer clients and doing that sort of thing. I just love that, because you were the first person I'd ever seen talk about human design. And I was like, what is this thing? You know, and put in the birth date, like what, I'm not into woo woo at all. And I know you weren't either. We're very analytical when it comes to marketing things, and, the thought of
numbers, stats, insights,
you've got to have results and what's happening, and it's got to be and this whole woo woo.
I want to be able to report on it.
Exactly. And
measure it.
And I think to then actually see the characteristics and what you were, and go, I mean, that was the biggest aha moment. I know you had the same thing when you saw your, what you realize what you are and who you are. And it's just, I think it's amazing. I tell everyone I've become a convert now.
Brilliant. I love it.
Because, knowing that I'm not a manifesting generator, which we'll get to when we talk about human design, and trying to compete with people that were in that space of, having my own business and how I show up, it was just amazing to show that being a projector, how that was different, and how to best serve my clients and myself. And it is amazing. Now that's going to lead me to our first point, what
Yes.
is it? What is human design and why do we love it so much? For people that don't know or have heard it, because obviously it's out there a lot more now.
Yes.
What is human design? And, we'll be talking about it in regards to business, but
yes.
What is human design and what is human design for business?
So human design is really a system that allows us to understand our individual gifts, our strengths, our talents, and ultimately our purpose in the world and how we're best designed to really interact. And it's going to be showing us how we're designed to live in alignment and live a life and have operate in business with a lot more ease and flow. Now, ease and flow can be kind of these, somewhat fluffy terms that kind of get tossed around, and we talk a lot about alignment. But in very simple terms, alignment is when everything feels like it's literally just going. It's not, you're not kind of stopping. You're not, if you think about a car, if the wheels are not in alignment, you're not traveling very far, very comfortably. And really, human design and the kind of the roadmap that you get is essentially, it's the mechanics of our energetics. We get this roadmap that shows us how we're designed to interact, how we're designed to kind of give, to live in alignment, and to really kind of come back to who we were born to be. So it's a combination of various modalities, and it kind of synthesizes ancient Eastern observational systems like the Chinese I Ching, astrology, the chakra system, the Kabbalah tree of life. So systems that have been around and used for thousands of years, more in that kind of Eastern realm, and kind of synthesizes and combines it with more modern scientific disciplines, which are kind of really rooted in quantum mechanics, neuroscience, biochemistry, and our genetics. So it kind of meets at this intersection of science and spirituality, which is why I think a lot of people kind of, even people like you and I, who are quite analytical, come to human design and they're like, it makes sense. I get it. It totally makes sense. It resonates. And the beautiful thing about human design, when compared to maybe some other either behavioral kind of profiling or personality profiling systems that many of us do, especially, in corporate land, is that it's all based on the time, date, and location of our birth. Whereas a lot of the profiling tools that are out there that are used in corporate or used in business are kind of based on multiple choice questions or, answering on a spectrum. And as gorgeous as our minds are, and our minds are always trying to keep us safe, our mind is always going to try and choose the option or the number or the multiple choice kind of answer that we think is what's going to kind of put us, in the best light. Because many times we're doing those tests, that profiling under performance conditions, really, because it's for a job. We might be doing psychometric testing for a job as part of the interview process, or we might be in a team and it's like a team building exercise and let's all kind of find out more about how everyone operates. But there's this kind of element of performance, and your brain is always trying to keep you safe and keep you the best version of yourself. Whereas, human design is really going to show us the most authentic, the most unconditioned, and the most kind of pure version of you. So it's giving us that, beautiful blueprint of our unique soul.
Yeah, I just think, I found the difference exactly like that from doing disc profiling or those sorts of things, which, great in itself as well.
Absolutely, not to discount. Yeah.
I find that sort of is how you interact with others, and knowing each aspect of that. Whereas I find human design is a much more inward of how you manage, how you show up, of how you manage, how you work. It's a very internal thing and a very individual thing, isn't it? So because it is on your date of birth and your thing, it's very much how you can best show up in your life and work. And I think for business owners, you tend to stay away from woo-woo sometimes, but I have just been drawn back to energetics time and time again.
Yes.
The last 2 or 3 years, because I've realized the impact it has on how I show up and burnout and making sure that you're really giving your best self. So I 100% agree. There's differences in both. Both are good in their own way, but human design is much more to you.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really going to give you that insight. We all know that we have unique fingerprints, and we all understand intellectually that we're all different, but it really helps you to see things in a much more realistic way, especially when it comes to business, when you start to, because comparisonitis is, everybody suffers from that at some point. And, just to use yourself as an example, and being a projector and being a non-sacral being who doesn't have the same energetic capacity as someone like me as a manifesting generator, even just knowing that, and knowing that you are not designed to trade time for money, you are not designed to work a traditional 9 to 5, 8 to 6, 40, 60, 70, 80 hour a week. You're not designed to, that's not how you're designed to share your brilliance. No, you're not here to trade the time for money. You are here to show up and guide.
Exactly.
And
that one thing,
your wisdom.
Just that one bit that about being a lighthouse, about being a lighthouse that projects the knowledge around and invites others in, changed me. Just changed me. And then when you ask people if they have 3 words to describe you, a lot of people will say engaging, inviting, and knowledgeable for me. So there you go. It just shows that that's what you are, because you're putting that out there and inviting people. It just changed me. And then also not competing with the manifesting generators who a lot I know that can put out offers. You just create and put out offers one after the other. And I'm like, gosh, I'm still, what? I'm just like, how does that even happen?
Exactly.
But I know that now, and I know it's not a thing that I'm doing wrong. It's just I need to do it on my own terms, and 100%. And so that's how, when we're going to talk today about human design, but human design in business.
Yes.
Now I know there's readings and there's different ways that you can, how you can run a business based on your human design. So explain that to me. How does that work? Because I know you normally have to have your human design reading, and then you take that into a business strategy side. So how does that work?
Well, once we kind of understand that everything has its own energetic signature. So you have your own energetic signature. I have my own energetic signature. Even our businesses themselves are completely separate energetic entities. And once you kind of get your head around that, and once you start to learn about your personal energetics and how you're designed to kind of operate and show up and to do business, you can kind of go about redesigning the way you do business to really suit your energetic capacity, to really be aligned with your gifts, your strengths, the things that people have always kind of asked you for and come to you for. You're like, oh my goodness. Then you see where that is in your chart. And you're like, of course, you can create, offers and programs and products and services that are very tightly aligned with your natural strengths, where you are impacting people, and understanding how you impact people as well. So it means that we can really kind of step away from cookie cutter kind of business models, or and it's not ever about, learning from a mentor or working with other people, but it's about really understanding yourself and the way that you're designed to thrive in business. And then taking the knowledge that you take from a mentor, from a course that you're doing, and really having the ability to tweak it and to change it, and to know that, if you don't feel like showing up in that way because that's what's been prescribed, there's a reason, and you understand the reason. You're like, cool, well, that's the strategy, but I'm going to tweak it like this, and then that's going to feel much better for me. And then I'm going to stick to it because it actually feels good to me. And it gives you that ability to really kind of critically think about, well, so-and-so is showing up every day. So the manifesting generators are showing up every day on socials, and they're pumping out these offers. And for you as a projector to know that you're just not designed to work at that same pace. You can be incredibly impactful, but it's not always about a new offer, new. It is about, for you as a projector, it's about your system, it's your framework, it's the way that you take people through the solutions to the problems that they have.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, because I look at it as, the projector thing of being able to see the bigger picture and being able, and I had that before. I used to say, I can see the bigger picture and move the pieces around so they make sense. And that was just how I worked. But then ask me to launch and go into launch mode. And, and I try, and I actually did a launch probably earlier this year. No, it was whenever it was a while ago. Yeah. And halfway through I went, I'm out. Yeah. I'm out. This is not, I'm not feeling it. It's not me. I'm out. I thought I would try the whole thing, and I'm out. I mean, I can do it. I know the systems. I know exactly how to do it. Yeah. It's just energetically, I'm out. So that was when I I twisted and pivoted and really changed my whole structure to think, no, what is me and how can I best make an impact, instead of me thinking of what I have to do. And that is the biggest takeaway I had from it. It's about, leaning into what really is you and realizing it's not the same as everyone else. You don't have to do. Give yourself the permission slip.
The permission, ultimate permission to do things in a way that feels good to you.
And, it's really crass, but the word that I came up to a few months ago was stop pushing shit up a hill.
Yes.
That's what I feel people get into, that vibe. And I just realized that saying, as crass as it is, it just kept coming to me. Nicola, stop pushing shit up a hill and just lean into what's good for you, put it out there and be the lighthouse you're supposed to be. And just stop this, having to be a manifesting generator energy when it's not you. So, I'm not woo-woo, but I agree with the premise, and it just hit me what was written. So I 100%, if you're in small business and you haven't explored human design, at least explore it. There are free ways, aren't there, to put in. You gave me it when we first met, an option. You put in your thing and you can get that. And I've done that with friends of mine to start exploring at least. And then the next step is to get a reading done, isn't it? To
normally, to really go a little bit deeper, and so with most of the free chart software, it's going to give you quite a good level of kind of top level understanding of your energy type, the way that you're designed to make decisions, for example. And then with a reading, depending on the type of reading that you get from someone, it will go deeper into specific areas and will really give you that insight into the strengths that you have, these gifts that you have, these things that are, really able to be leveraged in business as well as, if it's a specific kind of business reading, then how as your energy type kind of designed to really show up, and what's the best kind of approach for creating copy or content and social media content and things like that. So it can get very specific, and the human design system itself is very large. It's there's a lot that you can focus on. Even from a business perspective, there's a lot that you can kind of take on board and focus on as well. But the next step is usually kind of getting a reading and just understanding it from a very kind of personal perspective, and how it applies to you.
Yeah. So starting off with really understanding you first. Yeah. And then working into how you can use you within your business and that structure of your business. Because I think we start in business with a certain understanding of how we think it should be. Yes. And I think sometimes that's where the pressure comes. We think it should. Or, we watch all these people online because comparison.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've done many a blog post and social media on comparisonitis because it is a killer. Yeah. And I think human design allows you to step back a little bit and realize that, everyone is doing their own thing, and those people, and knowing somebody's human design type is a game changer too. I found that amazing. I'm like, oh, that's why you do. I get it. That's why you're like,
exactly.
5 offers in a month, and you're running multiple masterclasses and lives, and you just, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But then I also know that you have, as a manifesting generator, a way of, controlling that and making sure your energetics are fine, and same with us. So business is hard enough. So any support you can get to make sure that you're looking after yourself, I think, is just a no-brainer, even if it is just to understand what you are. Do that free chart that you can get and just at least understand it, because then, like you did, you're more likely to explore it and read into it. And then find a professional like yourself who can guide you through, which is like, as you say, you're a mentoring. I put it up on my stories yesterday about mentoring for 2023 is where it's at. I just find so many small business owners are doing courses and group coaching and all these things, and they're getting so much information, which is great. And the community environment of those are wonderful, but they're stuck. And they're lost, and they're feeling overwhelmed in all this stuff. And I think the more we can get back to understanding who you are, finding your person to help guide you through whatever you need to get to the next level is sort of, I think, where we need to be now. The age of constant courses and programs is sort of burning us out a bit. And they always have a place, don't get me wrong. But I think, like you say, if you understand who you are and take those bits out, like you said, and make sure that you're putting them in a strategy that's right for you. You'll get over that overwhelm a little bit quicker and make progress a bit quicker, I think.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, because there's only so much information you can take in, and the more you take in, the less you trust yourself, because you're then kind of relying on someone to tell you what the next step is. And when we start out in business, it's so natural for us to not have any business skills, or we've obviously got the core skills that we're going to be selling as a service, and we know how to do that. But the business related stuff, the marketing related stuff might not be where those core skills are. So we do need to invest in education and support. But there does come this time where I think people get stuck in a bit of a cycle of, okay, the next course, the next thing that seems to be working on social media or whatever it is, whatever the platform is. At the moment, everyone's like, on the reels and things like that. Yeah. And I had some really interesting feedback from a recent survey that I did. What's one of the number one things that's frustrating you about being a business owner? Is like, well, that my core business skills are coming down to whether I can, create reels. Like that's not why we're in business.
And I had a startup small business client who designed websites, amazing at it, coding websites, proper websites. And she said to me, because we did a lot of what she needed to do to be seen in a marketing point of view, and she said, well, I feel stupid. Nobody told me this, that basically marketing was a full-time job now, but I have to do the work.
Yes. So when do I fit this in?
How do I get the clients and do the work and not have the money, because I can't outsource everything yet.
Yes.
So what am I focusing on? And this is where I think, as I said, 2023 for me, my passion is mentoring now. I'm like, no, let's get 3 things done and do them right and just do it. But, get someone to help you do it the whole way, like you would do with people in understanding their human design and starting to implement it. I do the same with just do 3 things and do them well and get them out there. And don't think, oh, well, so-and-so just did this 3-month course and maybe I'll do that. But then so-and-so did this and, before you know it, you've got like 500 courses you haven't done and you still know further ahead. And I can take that from experience. I've done that.
And your human design chart will show you whether you have a propensity to do that as well, which 70% of the population do. So it's why the kind of online course industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, because we're all looking for the silver bullet. We all want to be told the next steps and we all want the shortcuts. It's human nature. But at some point you do need to understand that achieving a certain level of kind of financial success can be done through hustle and hard work, but it's not sustainable. And if you've set your business up in a way that is requiring this kind of almost 24/7 hustle, overwhelm, this huge amount of workload to keep it going, that's when you're trapped. And that's when you like get to the point where you're like, hang on, didn't I start my business for freedom and flexibility? And then you're like, not really feeling that very much. So then kind of going through that process of maybe unpicking a few things and really kind of rejigging and tweaking a few things and maybe changing your business model so it does match your energetics and your energetic capacity and really kind of brings out your strengths and allows you to really thrive, not just kind of survive, but thriving in business, is where you're going to see that kind of more sustainable success longer term.
Yeah, 100%. The launch mentality. I'm actually dropping a podcast today on the 3 things they don't tell you before launching. And, just truth bombs about how energetically hard it is, the amount of work and constant launching can lead to massive burnout.
Absolutely.
So it's really understanding that, everyone looks like they're launching, but it's it looks great on the outside, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of, duck feet underneath the water.
Yes, frantic.
Freaking out. And the launch model is not sustainable for a lot of people because of the amount of effort and work. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. So now, I want people to be able to find you and find their energetic human design. So how do they do that? Where's the best place for them to find you and start this journey, should they wish to, or at least look at it first and realize, oh, I know someone who does that and can help me. Where can they find you?
Absolutely. Well, I'm in terms of kind of social channels, I'm most active on Instagram. And I know Nicola will put this in the show notes, but it's at cat.skreiner. hard surname to spell, so just take a look at the show notes. And on my website at catskreiner.com/chart, you can get a free human design chart. And I've actually created it so that there's at least a paragraph about your energy type, your strategy, your authority, which is how you design to make decisions. So there's a little bit more detail than you typically get with some of the other free chart software. But even if you Google free human design chart, you will find somewhere that you can pop in your birth details. You do need time as specific as possible, location, and obviously the date. But you can supply any name you need. Doesn't need to be, your full legal name. If you don't want to put that in there, it's not going to be held anywhere. But getting the timing right is important. So sometimes we need to kind of go and speak with parents or try a couple of different times to kind of get it right. But yeah, that will give you the kind of the foundational elements of your human design to get you started and kind of get you started on the journey of experimenting with your energetics, which is such an exciting thing to do.
It really is. And I tell you what, once you find it, it's really hard to go back.
Yeah.
Once you read your first
it's a great excuse around the house as well.
Isn't it? I went and did my kids, and I went and did
yes,
my husband,
absolutely.
And
totally.
How they do school based on the energetic, and both kids, it nailed both of them.
Yeah.
It is amazing. If you do it to the people in your life as well, it's a bit like I've done personality screening, obviously, for my kids as well to see that. But this one was just how they show up for their schooling. It realizes the energy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
and it's so supportive for them because it allows you to then, tailor and change and adapt the way that you actually parent them and have this level of understanding about things that they can't articulate depending on how old they are, obviously. But my kids are 9 and 7, and I don't speak to them in using kind of human design terminology per se, but we talk about the way that they're feeling and how they're making decisions. And I mean, it just so happens that they've got very similar designs, each of them. And I'm like, how did I end up with 2 of those? But anywho, it's all good.
It just made sense to me because, going through it, mine are nearly 18 and 16 at the moment.
Yeah.
And the schooling for the older one, if I'd known before, it was really interesting of how he was not, into it and how to show up, but the other one really is. And, the way I think we've got a generator and it just, it was different.
Makes sense. So it makes total sense. It was and giving this level of knowledge to kids, particularly in high school years, I think is very important because they're making huge decisions. They're being very influenced by the people around them, and they don't kind of know themselves yet, but supporting them in a way that's going to allow them to feel very empowered is a huge gift.
It can only help, and especially with study and knowing how you best study and the energetics. If I'd known all of that, say 5 years ago, I would have had different conversations with them, I think.
100%.
Just go do it. Why aren't you doing it?
Yes. And that's why when you're kind of saying just do it, and they're not doing it, and they're never going to, and then you're like, oh, I understand now.
I was like, if I told you this way or that way, instead of I don't get you, why are you not doing it?
Yes.
So I think for parents as well, it's a great thing. Well, Cat, it's been awesome. Thank you. I love this stuff, and just to even if we introduce one person to it and it's helped them with their small business journey and to stop the overwhelm, I think we've done our job, because the world is 100%. Hard enough as it is. So any knowledge that you can put forward to help you in that journey, all for it. So thank you so much. Head over. I'll put all the links in the description of this show notes, and obviously on any socials that we do. So go and check Cat out and explore it, because I think it's well worth it, and you'll won't regret a moment of it. So thank you, and I'll be following you as normal online.
Lovely. Thanks.